Hey, Tim Frisch with A Frisch Perspective here. I wanted to talk in this video about a story that's starting to make big waves today. It says in this one report here, Pope Francis endorses same-sex civil unions for the first time as pontiff. So this is really big news and gaining a lot of traction on the internet right now. Before I talk more about this, I just want to encourage you, if you'd like to watch more Christian nerdy content like this, please subscribe to this channel and hit the bell notification so that you know when I upload a new video. Let's talk though about this issue of Pope Francis endorsing same-sex civil unions. The article says Pope Francis endorsed same-sex civil unions for the first time as pontiff while being interviewed for the feature-length documentary Francesco, which premiered Wednesday at the Rome Film Festival. The papal thumbs up came midway through the film that delves into issues Francis cares about most, including the environment, poverty, migration, racial and income inequality, and the people most affected by discrimination. Homosexual people have the right to be in a family. They are children of God, Francis said in one of his sit-down interviews for the film. You can't kick someone out of a family, nor make their life miserable for this. What we have to have is a civil union law. That way they are legally covered. While serving as Archbishop of Buenos Aires, Francis endorsed civil unions for gay couples as an alternative to same-sex marriages. However, he had never come out publicly in favor of civil unions as Pope. The Jesuit priest who has been seen at the forefront in seeking to build bridges with gay people in the church, the Reverend James Martin, praised the Pope's comments as a major step forward in the Church's support for LGBT people. The Pope speaking positively about civil unions also sends a strong message to places where the Church has opposed such laws, Martin said in a statement. One of the main characters in the documentary is Juan Carlos Cruz, the Chilean survivor of clergy sexual abuse whom Francis initially discredited during a 2018 visit to Chile. Cruz, who is gay, said that during his first meetings with the Pope in May 2018, after they patched things up, Francis assured him that God made Cruz gay. Cruz tells his own story in snippets throughout the film, chronicling both Francis's evolution on understanding sexual abuse, as well as to document the Pope's views on gay people. Toward the end of the article it says, however, the former Cardinal Jorge Mario Bergoglio was fervently opposed to same-sex marriage when he was Archbishop of Buenos Aires. Then he launched what gay activists remember as a war of God against Argentina's move to approve same-sex marriage. But the Pope's authorized biographer, Sergio Rubin, at the time of his 2013 election, said Bergoglio was politically wise enough to know the Church couldn't win a straight-on fight against same-sex marriage. Instead, Rubin said, Bergoglio urged his fellow bishops to lobby for same-sex civil unions instead. It wasn't until his proposal was shot down by the Conservative Bishops' Conference that Bergoglio publicly declared his opposition, and the Church lost the issue altogether. Francis, in the new documentary, confirms Rubin's account of what transpired. Of his belief in the need for legislation to protect gay people living in civil relationships, he said, I stood up for that. So that article gives you a bit of an idea as to what the Pope said and what he actually believes. I saw a tweet here by Matt Walsh, who was actually commenting Michael Knowles. Both of these, I believe, are Catholic men. He says, confusing is this Pope's specialty. And then Matt Knowles says, Pope Francis once referred to laws that attempted to redefine marriage as no mere bill, but rather a machination of the father of lies that seeks to confuse and deceive the children of God. Confusing. So these Catholics obviously have a problem with the way Pope Francis is portraying his views and how he is approaching this situation, because apparently before he said unequivocally that he was opposed to same-sex marriage. Now, one thing we have to keep in mind is he's not actually saying here that he is in favor of same-sex marriage. He's actually just saying he is in favor of civil unions, and that might be a position he's always held. One thing I definitely hear behind Pope Francis, and I think a lot of people feel this way, I can tell by a lot of the issues that are talked about in that article, he really feels the need to emphasize compassion. And it is true that when we're dealing with an issue like homosexuality, something we have to really realize is that there have been a lot of Christians that lack compassion. Jesus told us that before we take the speck out of other people's eye, we have to make sure we take the beam out of our own eye. And sadly, when we're dealing with certain issues, it can really come across as if we think we're better and we think we don't have the same kinds of problems and sin issues that other people have. But in reality, we all have problems with sin, and as the Bible says, all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. So it is really important for us to be compassionate and to understand that we're no better than anybody else, including when we're dealing with a subject like homosexuality. But another thing we have to keep in mind here is that when it comes to the subject of compassion, it is possible to err too much on the side of empathy. I know that's surprising because even though Christians sometimes have been too harsh, and we have to admit that, there is also the other danger of becoming so compassionate and so empathetic that we allow people to do things that are actually hurtful to themselves. If you can imagine someone who's struggling maybe with an addiction, of course you want to have compassion, you want to be understanding, but you also have to confront them and let them know that that addiction is not healthy for them and they need to deal with it. Now, if you'd like to hear more of some of my own thoughts about the LGBT issue and how we as Christians relate to that issue, you can check out my video where I talk about that in more length. But this was a really big story, and I wanted to bring it up and talk a little bit about it here. I would love to hear what you think in the comments below, but please try to keep those comments positive and helpful to discussion. But thank you so much for listening to what I have to say from A Frisch Perspective.